Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's device management interface call. Thanks for joining. And as usual, the call is public and recorded and will be shared on YouTube. So first up, given that we have Chandra here, I would like to finish the discussion on the 4380. Last time it was discussed with Holger that we cannot really provide the last update time of the image version from the OLT directly. It can be kept in the device manager if that need to be. But I also wanted to check with Chandra. The last time we mentioned the fact that given that the OLT is a physical OLT and the device manager can live on the box, then we could just store it in some local storage. Is that correct?
Yes, Andrea. Like once you mark this latest version as the active version, maybe we can store in the local file system that can be retrieved later.
Okay. So my thinking is that I'm not opposed to including this, but again, the downside of it is that with the Adtran OLT, the only way to capture it is actually do it in the with the device manager. There was another comment on this topic, which is why is this a requirement? This came from Amit. Unfortunately, today he's not on the call, so I'm not sure because today is a.
Hi, Andrew. Sorry, I joined.
Oh,
late.
oh, okay. Your Galaxy M31. Your Amit. Okay. Hey, Amit. So the question to you was why is this a requirement? What type of operations are we supposed to do with this data? Like, why did this came up?
Yeah. So in discussions with some of the requirements in EF Access Folder tool, right? So the operations team might want to know when was the last time an update of the software on the device was done, right? So as of today, there is no field through which it could be got, right? So that's why I even asked in the description itself whether this is feasible or not. Do the OLTs themselves have any information stored as to when the image was last updated? If that is available within the OLTs or the devices, then we could use that.
Okay. Okay. So let's do this. I think I'm not opposed to putting it in. We can put it in, and everybody can reply if it can be reported or not, and
Yeah,
that's about it.
correct. Yeah. So only if most of the vendors say that yes, we do support something like this and it can be exposed via the DMI interface, then I think it makes sense. Else, if it is not possible and all the vendors have to do some kind of workarounds to maintain this data, then we might even think of alternatives or what could be what else could be achieved, and then we could even go back and ask more strongly about the requirement, right?
So again, as we said, it can be done, not directly by the OLT. So or for Adtran. For Adtran is just going to be a surrogate information that's kept by the device manager. Am I right, Olga? You just know when you did something on the device. So it can be provided. So I think it's fine putting it in. And with the Radisys device, open device agent and device manager, we're just going to report it by storing it on the device. Plain and simple.
Okay, so I think I see a comment there that if manual operations happen on the OLT, the info in the DM is outdated.
Yes.
So if the box itself does not support it, then there is this problem will always be there. So
yes.
Okay. So anyways, I think I will cross-check about this from the folks who brought out this requirement. And so this implementation within the device manager in case of Atran or within the OLT software, or sorry, the device manager running on the box in case of Radisys, they work fine as long as no one updates the software on the box directly.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we will take. I'll take that proposition right to the requirements folks and check if this is okay. Right. If they say that no, it will work. As in the sense that yes, there will be no manual operations, then yes, this could work for Access 4.0. But if they say that no, there will be manual operations as well, and still we need to know the latest version, right? Then it's not plain and simple. It's not possible.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll cross check on the exact requirement, and then maybe I'll circle back with the brigade.
Okay. Okay.
And actually, if it is only the DM who is going to do it, then the last point that you have put, yes, that NEM itself can store it whenever it is successful in updating the image. It can store it. If always the updates are going to happen through the NEM / device manager, then yeah, it could be done in the NEM as well. Agreed.
Yeah, so let's get back on this point. If like as you said, and then we can decide what to do with this. I mean, again, adding it to the interface shouldn't be an issue. I think it's a valuable information. It's just that so if it's not up to date, it's maybe worse than not having it. But okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So next up, given that Babu and Chandra are here, I would like to hear some of the progress that Radisys is making in whatever type of work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, Andrea, we've just started on this. There was a little bit of a pause in between. We have just started. We can discuss offline along with Raj as well, and how do we take this forward. At this point, I don't have a plan, but we would have a plan.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Then there's a couple of other items that were introduced last time. The first one is multiple NNI and NNI and port speed. So right now with Atran, what they do is that to configure the speed of the ports, they load the startup configuration, a different startup configuration, and reboot the device, and the device reboots with the correct port speed, say at 40G, 100G, or things like that. And that is because in our interface, the port speed is not configurable. I would be happy making it configurable via the effectively a set configuration set. We do have the capability to do so. We just never, we're not using it right now. I also know that in DT, they're not using the set capability at all via the device manager, but would this be of interest, Amit, or?
So I have not seen a requirement, so I really can't say yes at this point, but I also can't say no because a requirement might come in the future. But yeah, but if the telecom and Netsia do need it, I think we should introduce it.
Okay, so the question is, it's actually a two-folded question to both the Radisys team and the Adtran team. Can we do this live, in the sense that if we put in this capability to get to set the port speed, is this something that the OLT can do without a reboot on the fly, or is this something that needs a reboot?
I mean, for the Adtran OLT, if it's not, if you're rebooting the OLT by whatever reason, then it will come up with the startup configuration, and the port speed configuration could be different. So if you have a different port speed configuration in the startup configuration than the one you would be setting by this new interface, then this would mean that you, after coming up, you would have to change the device manager would have to change the configuration.
Well, so
possible, but I don't know if this is a problem.
So if I understand correctly, right now what you're doing is that you're setting the startup configuration, rebooting the OLT, and that takes into effect. Ideally here, the operation would actually be two-folded. You change the port speed live without rebooting the device. You, at the same time, also upload a new startup configuration, but you don't need a reboot. That is the point. Because you have changed the port speed, you have uploaded a configuration for the next reboot, but you don't need a reboot right now because you have changed the port speed. Could this be done?
No.
No? Why not?
It's tricky because we are not. Cannot be done. Yeah, I guess in principle it could be done. I mean, we could add another way of doing that. Yeah, I guess it could be done. I mean, yeah, but so the only problem is that we then have two ways to configure the port speed, right? By using the startup configuration and by setting this specific command. And
isn't that the case for many things? Like usually, I'm asking, like the startup configuration is a configuration of everything in the OLT.
Yes.
And I guess it's not really up to the OLT himself to take care of making sure that the configuration that is set at the startup and the configuration at the that is changed at runtime actually match. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, it's up to the one who is.
Yeah, it's up to the one that is configuring the device. Yeah. Exactly. If he maybe wants to try something, and if it doesn't work, leave the startup configuration as is because it reboots it, it works. It might be done like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I wanted to say is that currently, the concept we're having is, I mean, the idea of the startup configuration is that we already put a specific startup configuration on the OLT in the factory, and then we ship the OLT. And normally there is no need to update the startup configuration, but there could be a need because something changes in the customer network or whatever. That's why we have the possibility to update it. Okay, but just but we actually do not know what is in the startup configuration. It could be anything. So it can be huge, it can be small, whatever. So we don't know this. And when you know, you have a specific startup configuration, which just for the sake of an argument, it contains this port speed setting. It sets it to something. And then afterwards you do a manual, not a manual, you do a configuration by the device manager of the same port setting. And then you expect that this will then become the new one. But what happens if you update the startup configuration afterwards again, which again would perhaps contain the old setting for the port speed? What would then be the one who is takes preference? Well, not the English word, but anyway.
To me, these two APIs are separate. You can do a change in one and you can do a change in the other. It's up to the one that asks for the change to make it consistent. I mean, it is like the two people come and tell me something. For the same thing, I just listen to the last one, kind of. Like I booted, and I got a startup configuration. It says 100G. Fine, I'm gonna go 100G. Then somebody tells me, okay, go 40G. Okay, I'll go 40G. I reboot, I read the startup configuration again. It says 100G. Okay, I'll go 100G. If you need to go 40 after the reboot, well, you need to change the startup configuration. I don't know how it's done right now.
Okay, so you
maybe you have
you're saying that
examples, but I think it is like this.
So you're actually saying that only when you update the startup configuration, then this is done persistently. All other configurations are not done persistently.
It's a good point.
No, I thought you were saying that.
Yeah. So that's definitely one way to do it. Yes. Meaning that the otherwise, but it is also true that you can persist this configuration and just work off that one. But then what is the unique source of truth then? I guess you could persist this configuration, and if it reboots, you use this configuration, and somebody to change this configuration and to revert back to the startup configuration just needs to revert it back to the startup configuration. I mean, the thing is that I don't have that much experience. So how is it done right now? Like, what is the, like, right now with the nothing of this? If you deploy an OLT for a customer and you give them the Adtran software, how is it done? Is it all startup based?
Yeah, it's all, yeah. I mean, currently it's only one customer who's doing that, and it's all startup configuration based. Yeah. There are some things which are changed.
But you need a reboot for that. Isn't that affecting the customers?
Yeah, but the expectation is that this is not happening often. I mean, the startup configuration does not contain everything. I mean, no, I mean, it does contain everything we're talking about here, but like the Votha configuration, for example, is not part of that. So it's not everything. But you're right, this affects, you have to reboot, yeah. But as I said, the plan was that the startup configuration is already written in the factory. So at some point in time, you will get OLTs which will have the correct startup configuration right from the factory, and there's no need to update the startup configuration at all, unless there is a major change in the network. Like, I don't know, they're changing all the NTP address server IP addresses or whatever. So then you would have to change that.
Okay.
I fully understand that this is not the perfect solution. So all other solutions we have normally with customers, they use our management system, and the management system is writing the configuration, and this is not based on this concept of the startup configuration.
Okay, and in that case, if if an operator sets 100G, then even after reboot, you have 100G.
Yes, but then we also have only one system configuring. Currently, we have two systems. We have Volta configuring the box, and then we have the device manager configuring the box, which makes some problems.
But Volta doesn't configure the speed. So for the port speed, there's only one way, which is this one.
Yeah. But the question here is, I mean, if port speed is one thing, but as I said last time, there might be other things which also have to be configured, like passwords, users, access groups, all that stuff. So are we really planning to enhance the interface in a way that you can do anything you want to do, which you normally do?
When the requirement comes.
Okay, so we always wait for the requirement, and then we add, augment the interface.
So right now the port speed requirement came, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. I'd like to hear other people's thoughts as well.
Andrea, I have one question. So are we considering to use the startup configuration for the NNI configuration, or we are also considering to have a new API to do all the NNI and related lag and maybe management ACL? So there can be a lot of new requirements in and around the NNI.
Yes. So as we were discussing with Holger, there's right now, Adtran is doing it via the startup configuration. And that's fine. But that imposes a reboot of the device, because you cannot enforce the startup configuration until you reboot the device. So that's that. So what we were proposing is add a new API. It's actually already there. Just use it, plumb it through to update the interface speed, but without needing a reboot, because it doesn't go through the startup configuration. The issue is what happens in the relationship with the startup configuration. What happens when we reboot the device? Do we go back to the initial startup configuration, or do we go to the configured port speed? Maybe the question that now rose into my mind is, are we treating the startup configuration as a reset to factory settings, or are we treating it as it can change every startup and we can use it every startup differently, so there is no concept of factory settings?
I believe the startup config should be the latest one. So every time you reboot, you come up with the latest config. But again, you want to use the startup config for NNI configuration also. Maybe vendors can think about it. But I would definitely consider new API to be more better solution.
So, so Andrea, my thought on this is that the startup config, as the name says, is the configuration that the box will boot up with, right? If we have a new API, yes, at runtime, if it is possible to change the speed, it can change, but after a reboot, it will again come back with whatever was the value in the startup config. If you want to update the value in the startup config as well, then you could update it, right? And I can't recall if we update the startup config, do we have an option of saying that, okay, update it, but don't reboot?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because if we have that, so for example, we change the port speed from 40 to 100, and we see that everything is fine, right? And then what we could do is we could say that, okay, update the startup config as well to 100. So that the next time the box boots up, it will come up with 100, but there's no reboot needed.
Yes.
But I can't remember if that is how the update startup config is as of today. I think as of today, if we update it, the box just does reboot.
Yeah, we do reboot, but I'm also not sure if we have to reboot.
Okay.
I mean,
So that could be a possibility.
So
I mean, one nice side effect of rebooting is that this is actually some kind of notification to Walther that you have to do something, because it's, I don't know. I mean, we don't have any means to synchronize the device manager and Walther, or any means to notify Walther that you have to do something because we just changed the configuration. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point, right? Yeah, I completely missed that. So yeah. So if we change from say 40 to 100 at runtime, right? Definitely there would be an impact, or at least Volta needs to know that something has changed.
Yeah. And currently it's a reboot event.
I expect that this change will actually trigger a port down on the device, and the port down is captured from the OpenOLT agent, and that's reported to Volta. Am I not correct?
Yeah, the port down is reported. That is correct. But we're talking about the NNI, so I think everything is a little tricky with the NNI with the current implementations, right? With in-band and NNI and all these things coming together. Because it will be a loss of connectivity between the adapter and the agent, the in-band. And yeah, we have to go through that path and figure out how we solve it there.
Yeah, so if you want my opinion, this is not going to be done while Volta is connected, but that's maybe just me. Because you connect to Volta when the device is actually deployed in a network and you know which speed it is connected to. But maybe that's me.
So just to go back a step on the requirement, Andrea. So this requirement is coming from any specific operator, or is it something we want to?
No, the last time we were discussing multi-NNI support, and this came up from Netsia and Turk Telecom.
No, so why I bring up that question is that we could discuss and we could maybe even decide on an interface change, and we could even implement that interface change. But we need an operator and a device manager to actually implement those changes, right? And give us feedback as to whether this is good, this works, this is bad. Because the current folks that are implementing this DM are not don't have a requirement to support multi-NNI.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so where do we get the feedback from?
I see. Good point.
Right, because we have seen even in the past, right, that we make an interface change, but when actually we get into the implementation, we stumble across things and say that maybe if we do it this way, it is better rather than doing it that way, right? So that feedback, I think, from the implementation always helps, making sure that what we have defined in the interface is really usable and not something which we only theorized, right?
Indeed. Indeed. So Deutsche Telekom does not care about multi-NNI. That's
not
what you're
right
telling
now.
us. Okay.
Not right now, but I guess it would be coming in the future.
Okay. Okay. Let me capture this, and maybe I can reach out to the Deutsche Telekom folks and ask their comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously if Radisys has this requirement and start implementing something in their device manager, it would be good to know if this is a requirement
Yes.
from the operators. Okay.
But sorry, one question. I mean, why is multi-NNI support affecting device manager at all? I mean,
No, just because the port speed configuration, it's not going to be done to Volta. So this is just part of the multi-NNI discussion. This is just we're touching the NNI with multi-NNI lag and ACP. And the basic stuff is, even with one NNI, we cannot really at the moment change the port speed. So how do we do it? That's how it came up.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry. Yeah, I think it might be better to pull the NNI speed configuration outside of the multi-NNI support. I think that will just be clearer, right? Because it's not a sub bullet of multi-NNI. Even with a single NNI, we need that. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. I think that's just clear.
You still need multi-NNI. You still need the capability to enable disable ports at runtime.
Correct.
That could possibly be done via Volta, because that's something. But fine, whatever.
But I mean, currently, would we have a problem if the device manager would enable all uplink ports? I mean, isn't it that currently Volta is just then selecting one of them?
Right now, Volta only, the OpenOLT agent only supports one NNI port.
Yeah,
we don't care about the other three.
Yeah, so they could be enabled or disabled. You really do not care because you're not using them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but this is why we are actually looking into multi-NNI support, because we actually need to support them. Okay, and
one of the operator that we are working, they have the requirement of multi-NNI. One NNI port directly gets connected to the BNG, and the other NNI port will go via a ring topology, so that there is a protection for the subscriber traffic. Maybe if I can get more details.
Okay, Chandra, I think will share with us more detail whenever he has them.
Yeah, I'm also not able to hear him. Maybe we'll drop a note.
That's okay. That's good, because that's one of the possible requirements for the 2.10 roadmap. And I think that if both Turk Telecom have this requirement, it is a possibility that Deutsche Telekom has it, and also Radisys might have it. We could possibly work on this. So it's good knowledge to have. Okay. Okay, and the same kind of configuration is due to lag. So we agreed last time that the lag would be done via the device management interface. Right now, that static lag is done via the BRCM file in the OpenOLT. And the idea is that if it's static lag and you do it before the connection of the OLT to Volta, that is okay. Because, well, Volta just sees the port and that's fine. But if the configuration is dynamic, at least a port down, port up is needed, because that would clear some of the flows. But most likely also a reboot of the device. Chandrababu, do you know if you change the BRCM file, you just need to restart the OpenOLT agent and device management daemon, right?
Andrea, it's raining here. I think we lost Chandra. We would come back. I think yes, we have to.
Okay. So effectively, you will detach entirely the device from Volta, which is effectively the same as doing this.
Yeah, I would confirm that.
Holger, how do you do it on your end? Does your LT support lag?
Yes. Yeah. You can just, so we don't use this Broadcom file. We just have an SDK. So we have an API and we can configure everything, I think.
So you're saying that there is a dynamic API from the Broadcom chip that allows you to do the lag?
I guess so, yeah, but I'm not, sorry, I'm not, I haven't implemented it. But this is something like Baal is using this file.
Okay, I can, yeah, Baal is using this file. Let me do one thing.
So we're not using Baal, so it's totally done. It's different on our platform.
Okay, let me do this. Let me find out if Baal has a dynamic API to do it. I believe not, but that's a whole another thing. We mentioned at the moment is not because LACP, which is the dynamic lag membership, which effectively allows you to do dynamic lag membership, was supposedly not supported before BAL 3.8, and now it is in BAL 3.10. But I need to double check that. So BBF manages lag I looked at it. There is an API to do it. There is no real implementation. So I don't really know how they do it. Every vendor does it in his own way. So we, like, for example, with Adtran, we could do it dynamically, no problem. But maybe other vendors don't do it. So.
Sorry, perhaps this is a stupid question, but why does this have to be done by the device manager and not by Volta?
Because we don't do, I would say, how can you call this, hardware configuration via Volta, and this is more kind of really a config of the box, and per the TST, this lives under the device manager.
I mean, just suppose you could do the lag configuration via OpenFlow. I know it's not possible, but I mean, just suppose this would be possible. Would you then also say that you wouldn't do this via Volta? You would do it via the device manager?
I would say we always do it with the device manager, yes.
Because it sounds a little bit complicated that it sounds like you want to have an LACP daemon somewhere in the cloud and it's speaking OpenFlow via Volta, right?
No. Well, it could.
Isn't this?
Holger, I don't know. The real answer is I don't know. I've been told it doesn't work in BAL 3.8, so I even have invested the time to understand how it works. To me, really it should be done via the device management interface.
Okay.
And yeah, maybe LACP packets are different. I guess I need to spend more time on this as well. Because the question was last time, can we do it via ONOS? No, we cannot at the moment because OpenFlow does not really support it. So that's it. That's it. You most likely, if we need to do it via ONOS, you probably would have to have an application that then goes and pings the device manager to do it. Pings something else because it can maybe receive the LACP packet, possibly throw a packet in, possibly. Possibly, but then it cannot really act on it directly.
No, I understand that, but yeah, okay.
Also, isn't this really a management packet? I mean, why does it? My question is, why does it have to go through the OpenOLT agent to Volta to Onos? Why can it not go to the device manager itself?
I mean, I thought you were talking about forwarding LACP frames to something outside of the box. And isn't this, I mean, in that case, you need an interface for it. How to forward the frames. And this is pack it in or pack it out, right?
Well, but my question is, why do we need to forward it out of the box entirely? I mean, why don't we just handle it within the device manager or the device agent? You receive an LACP frame, you join that port, bring the port down, bring the port up. Why do we need to handle it outside? It's a question.
Yeah, I guess we're handling it inside, but I thought we were talking about a use case where you cannot do it on the box. You have to do it out of the box, and then you have to forward the frame somehow. Perhaps it's better if we talk about this when we know more about it.
Yes, let me do a little bit of investigation on this, because even the Netsia folks don't have fairly clearly understanding, at least the way I see it, that they didn't really. There is a small document that talks about lag and LACP, but there's not a lot of detail in there, because even they have some clearly not so clear ideas about this. But I think we will start with this one, the static lag, static.
Yeah. Because I mean, for the dynamic case, what is the difference to MPLS, for example? MPLS is also modifying the uplink interfaces, right?
But no, well,
oh, I mean,
that the MPLS is just tagging the packets. That's a whole completely different thing.
But this is done by the uplink interface, or by whatever. I mean, there is something in the box which so you configure the uplink interface in a way that you say that these packets have to be tagged when they're going outside, and when they're coming in, they have to be untagged, right? Isn't this the same kind of configuration? What's the difference between if you say? I mean, it's technically different, but isn't it logically the same if you do some MPLS?
No, we're talking about different. No, we're talking about different layers in the stack.
Okay.
I mean, the way I see it, lag is a much. MPLS is layer 3. Lag is not, unless somebody else disagrees.
I don't know, we are doing pseudo wires, so for me, I sound like layer 2 as well. But anyway, okay, sorry.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But because the difference I see is that the lag is done via the chipset itself.
It's same for MPLS.
Yes, but then MPLS is just tagging the packet differently. The lag does not tag the packet. Lag is an internal construct. MPLS is an actual label. At least the way we do it is effectively pushing a label on top of the IP stack. The lag is done at the Broadcom chipset level. In like, I know that these parts of the chip go to that port and these parts of the chip go to that port. So right now I'm virtually merging these two sides of the chip and acting as if it was the same port.
Yeah, but MPLS is not pushing a label to IP. I mean, it's it's receiving an Ethernet frame and it's generating a completely new Ethernet frame and adding MPLS labels and then putting this Ethernet frame inside that. And this is also done completely within the Broadcom chip. So there's nothing done on.
Well, no, but you do see this configuration outside. The MPLS is done via labels. How the chipset implements it is a whole different thing. But of lag, the control plane doesn't see anything. It just sees it as one single port. Unless you know about lag membership and things like that, because you do lag via LACP outside of the box. But if you do it all entirely, the control plane sees one port. While with MPLS, it sees the fact that you're pushing MPLS labels on it. That to me is.
Why should it see that? I mean, you're just sending an Ethernet frame to an uplink port, and then the Broadcom chip knows that this has to be tagged and put in a pseudo wire, so nobody's seeing it. And if you receive a frame which is coming within a pseudo wire, then the Broadcom chip is removing the outer Ethernet frame and the MPLS tags, and you just receive the simple Ethernet frame like there was no MPLS. So it's also, but anyway, so yeah. Sorry, I don't think we have to discuss it.
I do see a lot of difference, but maybe it's me. Amit, what do you think? I mean, you guys are implementing the MPLS stuff, so this is clearly not, to me, is clearly not the same.
Yeah. So, well, for me, the question is, and excuse me for my level of knowledge of LACP, right? But static lag is fine, right? But for LACP, there has to be an application sitting on top of LACP, right? Which is going to make the decisions.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And where would this application run?
It's a good question.
On the box, or should it be outside? Because if it is outside, then the LACP packets ideally should go through packet in. But if it is on the box, then I think, yeah, it could all be configured on the box. Right?
Okay, I don't think we have enough information to proceed here. The Turk Telecom guys need to provide us a better document for this, because otherwise we cannot really go. We go in circles without anything. But my comment stays: the decision from TST is not to do it via Volta. We do it via the device manager. Whatever that entails, we deal with it. So that's it.
Okay, I didn't know that decision was made by TST. I thought just because we talked about it last time.
Yeah. So Andrea, I think we also need to see how this lag and LACP thing, right? Or especially the lag.
Amit, I can't hear you.
We cannot hear you anymore. It seems that this call is plagued with issues.
Or have an effect on what we do on this side.
Sorry, Amit, can you repeat the last 20 seconds?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that depending on how the solution is implemented on Volta, right? As to whether Volta sees only a single port, which is already lagged, or Volta sees multiple ports, right? That will have an implication on how we manage things through the DMI interface.
So the way I've understood that this was put forth in the Volta side is that Volta sees only one port. If it's a lag port, you don't see the members of the port. You just see the port. That was my understanding when we had this discussion at TST.
Okay, so in either case, whether it is static lag or dynamic lag, Volta sees only a single port.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So effectively, what we are saying is that Volta is completely Volta and ONOS are completely transparent to lag.
Yes.
Yes, that is my
And-
understanding as well. Yeah.
Sorry,
And
what?
multi-NNI is also only one port. Sorry, Volta's only seeing one port when you're doing multi-NNI.
No, multi-NNI it sees 2 or 3 ports because those are separate ports. In lag, each port is a member of the lag.
Yeah, no, I think I understand lag, but okay. I just want to make sure that for multi-NNI, Volta does have to know, is it single NNI or multi-NNI? Okay, it doesn't have to know if the port it's using is using lag or not. But
No, so in multi-NNI case, we are saying there are 4 NNI ports. All 4 of them are reported to Volta because none of them is a lag member. Okay, that's multi-NNI. That's what multi-NNI means. You could also decide that you have 4 ports. You group them in 2 lag groups. So 2 in one and 2 in the other one. Volta will see then just 2 ports because those 2 lag groups. You decide that 4 of them are in one lag group, Volta will see 1 port. So it's not about the physical interfaces, it's about how you group them together. If you don't group them together via lag, you're going to see 4, 8, how many you have? 1. If you do group them together via lag, how many lag groups you have are going to be reported to Volta. Does that make sense?
yeah, I got that, but this means then it's not the case as Volta only sees just one port. For multi-NNI, it will see multiple ports. So if you just configure multi-NNI, I got this. If you're using lag, it's different. But
so let me explain the difference. If you get like if you have multi-NNI and you get 4 ports, you're going to get 4 flows for DHCP on those 4 ports. If you have lag with 1 lag group and 1 port is reported to Volta, you're going to get 1 flow, and it's going to be the mandate of the device to split it into whatever it needs to support that in the lag group. What we're saying is that the NNI ports, if you report them single ports, they're just going to be a normal port to Volta, and we will need to support that. Because as Chandra said, they can be connected to separate things, whatever. Okay, redundancy, whatever that is. But if you do lag, that is considered a single port. Volta will see 1 port only, and will push down flows for 1 port only. And I think this is the best. I think this is the best way to go, because multi-NNI means treating them differently. Lag means treating them the same. So it doesn't make any sense to have it to actually know about the lag group if you have to treat them all the same. Just treat them all the same already. At least that's my take.
Yes, agree with your point, Andrea. It has to be seen as a single port, no matter how many physical ports are part of the lag.
Yeah.
I only wanted to point out that it sounded like when Amit was talking that Volta only sees 1 port, but for multi-NNI, it will see several ports. So
yes.
Okay. So if you then configure several ports on the device manager, you also have to configure something on Volta so that Volta knows.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's not enough to enable 4 ports by the device manager. You also have to do something in ONOS or Volta or whatever to use these.
Well, right now it's not supported, but that's code changes that we need to make. That's code changes that we need to make. But once multi-NNI is supported, they're just going to show up as right now the single one shows up. And we can configure them. Okay, so let me go back and do some investigation on the things I added myself here. And if you, Amit, can go and investigate with the A4 team about the time on the different OLTs, that would be appreciated. And I'll try to get back with more information about the NNI and multi-NNI and lag as soon as I have it.
Yeah, sure, Andrea. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up start a discussion, not right now, but for the future meetings. So when we started designing the DMI interface, right, the thought was that this interface is generic enough to be able to work with different types of devices, not only
Yes.
OLTs. So how about DPUs or switches in the future? Would we think that that would be a preferable choice to use DPUs to configure that? Maybe we could start thinking in that direction, if that makes sense. Or do we think that the interface is not that generic enough, or it might get too wide if we start supporting different types of devices? So maybe we should think about it in the future discussions.
This is a big discussion. I have my thoughts, but I would avoid starting it right now. Let's
No,
keep it for
not
next
right
time.
now. Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up so that you can put a line on your on the
Okay.
doc. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Then, is there anything else?
Nothing from my side. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I'm good as well.
Okay, then if not, let's reassess and let's think about these elements that we have, try to gather as many requirements as we can, and then discuss again next week, in 2 weeks from now. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.